Hi everyone, happy Sunday. Well, I had put a poll on my YouTube post community, whatever they're calling it now, and I said I was going to do a color in chat, and I gave you a choice of pages that I could do because I couldn't make up my mind. You all picked Leon's Journey, so that is what we're doing. This is the newest book from Kanoko Agusa, and Tammy and I are making this a project book for ourselves because it is so heckin' adorable, and super excited to get started in it. I was just in a mood for a project this weekend. Um, we're going to work on this intro page for the characters in the book. Couple things. I'm going to tell myself and anyone else that is intimidated by a book like this, because I know I am. And I told myself before I started this is that the intro page is supposed to serve as a test page. We're testing, I'm testing mediums, things like that. I do want to keep the same colors of the characters throughout the book. However, I can change the colors if I need to, or change pencil types if I need to, if I don't like what I'm doing. This isn't my inspiration for Leon, by the way. I was looking, so Tammy gave me the tip to translate the text here, and Leon is a man about town who likes to sometimes get in a fight with neighborhood cats, and he is living his best life. Until he meets Lily, who is not like other cats. I'm showing the pencils here. I'm using a combination of Derwent Chromaflow and the Caran d'Ache Supracolor watercolor pencils for this. But as I told myself, well, couple things before we say that. I'm showing the entire process for Leon, and then I'm showing the watercolor base for the other characters. I couldn't get them all done, so so we just stuck with the star of the show, and I will work on the others hopefully over the next week. To make sure I show all steps, I did speed up the video just a touch. Right now I am putting down the Supracolor watercolor base. All of the pencils that I used will be in the description. I will also have description chapters if you want to jump around to certain parts of it. We'll be doing a watercolor layer of Leon, then the other characters. Then we'll do pencil and finishing touches on Leon at the end. And then we'll have a finished picture. So you can jump around to what you like. I will be rambling about the picture a lot, but I'll also be rambling about life because it has been forever since I've really talked about, what's been what. And so just noting all that right now. I will add the other characters to the description as I finish them. So I can keep them all in one place on the YouTube video just in case I lose my record somewhere of the colors that I'm using. So getting back to what I was saying, like if you have a book like this or a page like this, try to find a small page. Maybe it's the title page, maybe it's a copyright page in the back that has like a couple small pictures on it or something, and just start, right? And like I said, I told myself here, I'm like, this is a test page. I'm testing things. It will not go 100% the way I want it. There are things about it I'm not going to like. But that's why we chose this page. It's smaller pictures, easier to finish, get an idea of what colors I want to use. I can change the colors if I need to. Like if I'm really unhappy with the ones on this page, I will probably change colors, but so far so good. I want to try to keep the same colors for the characters through the book, the same type of uh, tabby pattern for Leon, if you will, but that doesn't mean I can't try other pencils. I'm going to try to cross match the colors, but you know, according to the pencil sets, we may not have the exact same colors. Like for example, the Chromaflow does have 150. Prismacolor, I think, is the only other set. Clover has like 300, but Prismacolor has 150, so I might be able to get pretty close with Prismacolor, but so it may change slightly. There may be pages I decide not to use a watercolor base. There may be pages I decide to use just pencil. Maybe pages I decide to use more watercolor than pencil, depending on the size of the characters. See, I have to tell myself all this so that I don't get intimidated and panicked about it. But ultimately, you know, the goal is I'm hoping by further on in the book I can get into doing like actual fur texture, do other things with him on the different pages, but just keep his basic coloring the same. So I'm trying to allow myself a little bit of flexibility there. And just like I said, this is not the end all be all on this page. This is just a test page. And like I said, sometimes you just got to talk yourself through. You got to talk yourself into these pages. And this is one of the reasons I've hesitated doing these types of books. Because I get so caught up in how I want it to look a certain way and I don't know how to achieve that. So like on this page, I can already tell you the owl, weirdly, is going to be the biggest problem that I have. I have no idea how to color the owl. Still, um, post post this video before I actually pencil in the owl. Um, but I wanted to go ahead and get started. So the owl, I'm probably not going to be happy with, but that's okay. I will work on him throughout the book as long as I, you know, like the basic colors, and that's what I want to keep with. So anyway, so I did go with a pretty heavy Supracolor. Those are the Caran d'Ache Supracolor watercolors. Probably my favorite go-to watercolor pencil at this point. Not counting other watercolor mediums like gel crayons or neocolors or things like that. But in terms of a pure watercolor pencil, the Supracolors are my favorite. And the only reason for that, actually, the museum aquarelle ones are my favorite. But the only reason that Supracolor edge them out is because it's 120 and not 72. It gives me more colors to choose from. And I like them because they do keep a really nice saturation and pop on the page, as you can see. When I activate them with water, they're not going to become, you know, almost translucent like a lot of other watercolor pencils will do. They keep a very good, strong color base, and I like bright, vibrant colors, so they're very appealing to me. I also feel like I can use them. They are not super budget friendly. However, I've used them on a lot of pages so far, and I'm trying to think if I've even had to sharpen any of them, because you don't really have to, at least me, I don't have to have sharp precision on these unless I'm doing detail work. Now, one thing else I'm trying on this picture are the new watercolor pencils I got from Tim Holtz, the Distress Oxide colors. I wanted to create kind of I went back and forth on this page. I didn't know if I just want to do the whole background in like a pastel mix of like green and blue or something, or if I just wanted to do their own little backgrounds. And so I opted for their own little backgrounds. I didn't want to scratch with the pencil. So these are considered watercolor pencils, but their size and their texture, they feel almost like a crayon. And so they do rub down faster than a standard watercolor pencil would. So I thought, well, hey, I haven't had a chance to try these yet. Let's try them for the background and see how easily they dissolve. and I figured these would go on a little faster, and they did, than the aquarelle pencils. So like these would be, and you'll see when I activate them, I think these would be a good option for like a background, a big space that you're trying to fill, um, with like a watercolor base. These give you a little more, I mean, it'd be nice if they were like really, big, wide, more crayon-like, but, and I know you're thinking, why didn't you use Neocolor 2s? And I just don't love my Neocolor 2s. It's something, it's not how they go on the paper, it's something about the colors. I struggle a lot with the color selection on them. And I liked a lot of the different colors that were in this set. This is also just a 72 set. I think the Neo colors are 60. Is that right? Or is it 84? I think it's 84. Anyway, I don't I don't want to get rid of them. Like, I don't just absolutely hate them, but like they do, I don't know. I'm not going to give an opinion at this point because I just barely touched the surface with these. So I would have to do like a side-by-side comparison. Um, but these do remind me a little bit of the Neocolors more than they do a standard watercolor pencil. So if you want to have an idea of the feel and texture of them. I tried to go with two colors. You're going to see when I activate it, the blue just absolutely obliterates that lighter blue. Um, but so I learned from that. Unless I have a bigger page and I have designated areas that I'm doing light and dark, having a couple colors side by side like that is not going to do me any good here. I will say, if you look here, these dissolved very easily. And that's why I said they remind me of the Neocolor 2s, which do dissolve very well. These dissolve very easily with just a little bit of water from the water brush. So I was very pleased about that. I found I could go back and work a little bit. You'll see in a minute, I want to smooth out kind of that jagged edge. And so I went back, I would like rework in a couple areas, while I was going along, and these did allow me to do that. Even without treating this page, I was able to have some movement with these. Um, they didn't like dry instantly on the paper. And so that, I think is a really good plus for them. I'm just checking to see if they bleed. So far, so good. Nothing that I use today bled through. So that is a win. Um, However, I will caution you might want to test for yourself. Um, if you're using a lot more saturated color than I am, like if you're really digging down deep and putting a lot of pressure and doing a lot of dark colors, like a lot of dark blacks and blues and deep saturated colors, there could be a risk that those could bleed through. So I can't say for sure, but the colors that I use today, like this is a lighter blue, I didn't really use, the only black I used was a black gel pen and a black Chromaflow pencil, and I used so little of that, neither of those went through. But I used a black glaze gel pen, and from what I could tell, the little bit I used it did not go through. The paper did feel quite fragile when I was wetting it. Um, I don't, honestly, this is going to sound really funny. I haven't colored neither one of my other Kanoko Gusa books. Uh, these aren't the English, I don't have the English versions, so I don't know if the paper is the same way, but I was surprised at how fragile the paper felt when I was using this. I mean, I'm using, I guess, a fair amount of water, but not super saturated. So, I would say, I was able to go back over the areas pretty well. Um, but like I wouldn't go I would love to have a page where I use watercolor layers to build the picture, but I think I'm going to pre-treat the paper with clear or satin glazing liquid or clear gesso or something, because I don't think this paper can handle layers and layers of watercolor. It can handle a basic watercolor base like this, but I don't think it can handle multiple levels, which is fine. Unless it's watercolor paper, I wouldn't expect it to really. So it's just, this is definitely, you know, nicer paper than like Amazon, but this isn't watercolor paper. So you can definitely, as I'm showing here, use watercolor elements on it. You just have to keep those little things in mind. Like I said, it's always best to have a test page, particularly if you're using ink tints, if you're using really saturated gel pens, if you're using anything that has a lot of deep saturated colors to it and you want to make sure it doesn't bleed to the other side. Highly recommend, like I said, sometimes a copyright page or something like this. I would have not been happy if it had bled through, but like that would have been the title page. Like it would be okay, right? Like I would find a way to fix it and make it work. So, um, but like, yeah, if I had watercolor tips, that would be it. Another tip that I seem to keep forgetting every time I do watercolors like this, unless I'm doing layers, it's probably best if I just use one color. So like for Leon, I want to call him Leroy. But for Leon here, I had a brown ochre and an ochre, and like the brown ochre kind of got washed out. Typically, what you would want to do is build layers with watercolor to get the depth of color. Unless you're using like drastically different colors, like a super dark and a super light, it's kind of gonna mix, which is what it did here. So I could have saved myself some time by doing that. I didn't really have to use more than one color. If you do have a little bit of bleed over into another area, like you can see the Leon banner gets a little bit of that brown in it, you can go over it with some water, like just kind of keep working at it a little bit. Again, being cognizant of your paper and the fragility of it. Um, I'll probably get more into my life stuff during the pencil part, but I'm just rambling about technique stuff right now. Hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully. But and his base ended up being a lot more vibrant thanks to the Supracolor pencils. So I was lazy. These are smaller pictures, and I didn't really want to do like 3 or 4 pencils and a watercolor pencils for the bottom pictures. So I took a little different tactic here for these 3. Instead of using a, you know, 50-ish 50 mix. Hang on, let me grab some coffee. Instead of using a 50-50-ish mix of Chromaflow and Supracolors, I decided to just use a few different Supracolors, look at my Chromaflow, determine what colors I'm going to use, and if I could use a 3rd or 4th color in the Supracolors because they had some lighter colors in the Chromaflows, I could use that as like a 4th color or whatever, like a base color. And I did that primarily because these pictures are so small, and honestly, there's not a lot of room to do watercolor and pencil. It'd be a lot quicker if I just did the pencil. So there were just a few things. Like, of course, I wanted to use the Tim Holtz on the background, and I just used one color. I did not go out as far as I did with Leon because these are smaller pictures. And then this is like a light lemon yellow that Chromaflow didn't really have. Why are we going blurry here? Fix that. That's annoying. And then there was a light beige for Marie because again, we didn't have the lightest color that I wanted there. Um, Now we're moving on to latte and mocha. This part's going to go pretty quickly. I used carved pumpkin. In retrospect, I should have used a lighter orange. There was a, what's it called? Spiced marmalade that would have been a little less bright. But as soon as I put it down on the paper, I was like, damn it. But it was fine. It's fine. These, you know, like the background colors, the detail colors of like the frog and the flowers, and in this case, the chick or the tulips or whatever, those are not set colors. It's just the characters themselves that I'm trying to come up with standard colors for. So like, if those don't work, no big deal, right? MBD there. Um, but I do wish I'd used a slightly less, and they are, you know, they're bright. I'll say that for them. The orange was very vibrant. When I activated it, I had to frequently wipe the brush on a paper to actually take off some of the pigment because I didn't want it to be as, you know, super bright orange. And then here I had some Supracolors for some real light bases for the tulips and for their little neckerchiefs things here. I think I used the lemon yellow on that chick again. Sometimes it's weird with watercolor base. Like in these smaller pictures, and you'll find when I'm using my pencils, sometimes they help reduce the white space. So if I don't want to use as heavy a pressure on my pencils, then when I'm putting my lightest color down, I have a light base behind it. So I don't have to over saturate the area to remove all the white space, basically. That's one of the reasons I like using a watercolor base. And you'll kind of see that when I apply a pencil later on. Now, Baron here is going to be a problem. He's going to be a big problem because I just don't know how to color an owl. One of the things I struggle a lot with, and it's a challenge, this book is supposed to be a challenge, is realistically coloring animals. I feel better about cats because I've done a lot of cats recently, and I'm actually quite proud of that. Like, Leon had exact idea what I wanted to do and how to execute it. I just needed the actual colors. But Baron, man, I don't know, because owls got, like, this is, I think Tammy said it's a great horned owl. And when I looked up pictures of them for inspiration, they have a lot of white speckly spots and dark spots speckled on them. Plus, he's also in a weird position. I can't tell if he's turning around and like it's his wing I'm looking at mostly. It kind of looks like it's supposed to be instead of his chest area. But he's at a weird angle in here, so I did use a light green. It's like a khaki green for the ivy. Again, all color names will be in the description of what I used. Sorry, some of this is off camera. I was trying to work pretty quickly on this. But I spent an hour plus picking colors. Like, I got up yesterday all gung-ho, like, I'm ready to do this. Let's get this done. And then I spent an hour. Why did I go with my Chromaflows? Well, when I had their inspiration pictures, and when I was looking at colors, well, honestly, I was looking for my light fast and I couldn't find them. I know where they're at now. And since I couldn't find those, I was like, well, I'm kind of trying to look for something with a lot of browns and a lot of grays and a lot of more natural tones for, you know, the animals. And Derwent's a really good brand for that. And so I decided to go with the Chromaflows because I had used them recently in a different page and had really liked them. And there's Winry coming by to say hello. So that's why I went with them. I have some thoughts on them as I use them. And then the Supracolors were easy. That's the biggest watercolor pencil set I have. Um, Probably what I should have done is, I got done with Leon, and you'll see his final picture, and I was like, I was a little disappointed in myself because I was like, he's so bright, he's so vibrant, and like, I see other people the way they color these types of pages, and they're all just natural colors and very light, very light color layers and layers of pencil, and they're very subtle and maybe not neutral, but they're very subtle and just soft and pretty. And Leon, I swear I'm gonna call him. If I call him Leroy, I'm sorry. It's too close. Leroy's Journey. I just need to rename this. I should have colored him like Leroy, honestly. It would have been a lot easier because Leroy's a black and white cat. But we are where we are. I wanted a challenge with the tabby pattern. So, um, but I was like, it just doesn't look as subtle as I thought it should. But then I looked at it today and I was like, you know what? It looks great. He's nice and vibrant. And I'm a vibrant person. I always have been. I do want to challenge myself and try other ways of coloring and different techniques and stuff just because I want to, see what else I can do. But it's fine. It's who I am, and he turns out looking really good. And the more I look at him, the more I like what I did. This is also a test as well, because I changed my tactic. He's very vibrant because he has a lot of strong water-based color. I left mostly white, and then I'm going to fill in with a pencil. And we're going to see how different it is. And if I don't, and it may turn out I like it, it may turn out I don't like it. But I just, the more I looked at it, the more I liked it. And as much as, I'm always inspired by other colorists and things like that, like, I also know who I am as a person. And I'm a bright, vibrant person, at least when it comes to coloring. And it's just how I color. So, maybe I bring a different, look for this book. Maybe I bring a different, style that a lot of people don't normally see. Maybe that's how this turns out. So, I'm not saying there won't be subtle pages, but maybe that's how it'll be. Now, this crease, y'all, is like my biggest. I wish the paper was a little bit better, but definitely okay paper. If I want to do drastic blending with watercolors and multiple layers of watercolor, I'm definitely going to treat the paper. I don't think it will blend well untreated. But again, if it's not watercolor paper, it almost never does. So that's not a shocker. So, and it's expected. This is not watercolor paper. But just for a standard base layer like this, it works just fine. I just wouldn't keep going and working over it again and again. There was somewhere where, up there where I took like a tissue or something and I blotted at something, and when I pulled it away from the page, even though it was dry, it pilled the paper a little bit. So, yeah, it's definitely just be cautious of that, But this damnable crease, y'all. I need artists to provide either like a spiral bound version of their books or something where the art is not in the crease. Especially with watercolor or anytime I'm trying to do pencil on the edge like that, it drives me crazy. Crazy. And so the crease looks a little weird because I kept trying to gently spread the book apart so I could get more space. Alright, so here, like I said, he's a lot different because I used a strong base on him. And we're going to see how that turns out. And then as I do the others, we're going to see, you know, how that plays out. And there will be pages where I do use a watercolor base if it's a big picture. Because I have tendonitis and I have fibro, and a lot of pencil work really jacks up my wrist, my elbow, just pretty much my entire right side. And a lot of computer work does that too. And so I end up needing a watercolor base so I don't have to press as hard on the pencils. I don't have to do as many layers. So on a picture where the character's big, like this next picture to the right is one of Leon, I would definitely still use a watercolor base on him. But maybe I try some different watercolor bases where he's less saturated. I don't know though. Like I said, the more I look at this one, the happier I get. So, because he's the star, just like you would expect. Hi, Reap Sheep. So I start out with 3 pencils for this and quickly find out that I don't feel like, I think this was Eucalyptus in the Chromaflows. I didn't feel it was strong enough. Whoop, I don't know what I was doing there. Like I wanted something darker for the, you know, darkest color on the Clover. And so I end up pulling out, I think, a sea blue. So I add in some blue. I do like, so the Chromaflow swatch that I showed in the intro is actually from Color with Claire. Her color charts are the best. Absolute best, because they're by color family. And when I tell you how easy it becomes to pick colors and pick combos based on her charts, like, I just, they are fabulous. I would love to see her like put together a whole book of them, and you know what? Sell that. Like make some bank, cuz she deserves it. The time it takes to put these in color family order, like I wouldn't blame her one bit. But anyway, one thing it makes it really easy to do is if I look at this and I'm thinking I need a darker base, and I look at my colors and they're like a green blue, right? So I'm like, all right, I either need a dark green blue, which I don't really have other than the Eucalyptus, or I grab a blue, like a dark blue that's got a little bit of aqua, a little bit of green to it. Sorry, Reef Cheap's on my shoulder again. You might can hear him purr, but so the blue was exactly what I needed. So I just added that in to my other 3 colors, and that was exactly what I wanted. And I did that later on too with something else, and I can't remember what it was. I pulled a color. Oh, I think it was a grass. I wasn't getting a dark enough green, and so I pulled a different color from a different group that gave me what I was looking for. So Um, so yeah, my pencil work is, you know, I'm proud of myself because I do a lot of pencil. I've done a lot more pencil work probably in the past year than I have in the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years that I've been coloring. Probably more pencil work than I've ever done, which is great. Um, Again, I'm limited on my pencils, and one of the reasons I'm trying to audit my pencils and go through them is because I've just got to get rid of the pencils that are too hard for me. There are a lot of pencils that I have to lay down to get a lot of color, and I'm just not going to sit here and do layers and layers. I don't have the time, I don't have the patience. It still wears, it still causes pain in my arm if I sit there and do layers. It's just not me. So I need to go through my set and just get rid of the ones that I don't enjoy coloring with and the ones that cause me pain. So I've been using them a lot more lately. Again, I almost never use pencils on their own, unless it's a tiny picture. Most of the time I base with some sort of water medium, um, to keep me from having to put as much pressure on them and use them and do as many layers and things like that. Um, so I guess you're seeing more pencil work from me. I do apologize, the screen goes blurry sometimes. I actually recorded this with my phone, and I guess the autofocus gets a little wonky sometimes because it's focusing on my hand and not the picture. Um, but I do enjoy coloring with them, particularly when I have one of Claire's charts, because it just makes picking the colors that I want so much easier. And so I tend to work dark to light, very few layers. I will do like the darkest color, followed by the medium color, followed by the light color. Um, I'll see how that works, and then I may go over it one more time. Like if I want to add in this case with the Clover, I added in a darker blue to give me the darkest color that I wanted. Um, and then at the very end, I will go over everything with the lightest color to kind of burnish it, mix it all together if it does mix. Um, and yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm not a pencil connoisseur. I don't know if I recommend following, like, I definitely don't know if I want to do pencil color alongs, because I probably do all the things you're not supposed to do. When I very first started coloring, I was going to take art lessons, and she was very much like, very light layers, build it up, and I just, I would never get anything done if I did that. It isn't me. I just, yeah. So I try to find a compromise where I have pencils that allow me to put down a lot of color quickly with medium pressure, so I'm not really having to put heavy pressure down. So, and I like the Chromaflows. Um, for this page though, I was a little surprised. I used them on the Furballs book by Diane Dufour over a watercolor base. It was actually Supracolors, and I thought they did really well. Like, I didn't have to put a lot of pressure to get color. But here I felt like I had to put a bit more pressure on them. I was surprised by that. And by the end of this first picture, I was already like my wrist and stuff was already bugging me. I am in a bit of a flare right now, so that could be part of it. Um, but when I say I might try other pencils on this, that's what I mean. Like, I might try my Prismacolors. I don't tend to use Prismacolors often because I am so heavy-handed that they can smudge pretty easily if I'm not careful. That's why I wear one of those little art gloves for any pencils. And I would like to see how they do on this paper. I might just need a little bit softer pencil, though the Chromaflows they weren't terrible at all. Here I had coffee bean, bourbon, and brown sugar, which is very close to that ochre color. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to add in a thin line of black to really enhance the tabby stripes. And I'm glad I did. I like that a lot. So, but like you just saw, very thin layer. Um, Kanoko Gusa, when he drew Leon, um, also made it very easy to see where to add the stripes in if you want to add stripes. And so that also helped me a lot in being able to not have to sit there and just make the stripes. Like, they're already kind of shaded them in if that's what I want to do. I just have to, some areas I had to get a little creative. So, um, but yeah, so that was a whole lot of talking about coloring, which probably was okay because that's what most people think want is for you to talk about coloring. Um, as far as coloring everything else, all other coloring, I am hoping to have a log catch up next weekend, and I'm going to show hopefully more progress on this page, what I've been working on. Actually have had a few pictures done this week. More than I've done in probably months. I also, based on my last supply haul video, I got some really good recommendations on some stuff to try, and so I've picked up a few. I said I was going to buy more supplies. That's why I have to stop saying stuff like that. Because of the tariff situation too. Don't get me started on that. We're just gonna go right by that. But because of that, I made the decision to make a few purchases, like to go ahead and do that before any potential tariffs hit. And so I will have I'm going to just show you briefly the few things I've picked up. But we're going to have a full supply haul later this month to like fully swatch them out and talk about them. So I did pick up some more acrylic paint pens, the Distress Oxide crayon, the Distress crayons. I ended up getting those. Which they're just, basically kind of like my Faber-Castell gelatos almost. I saw somebody compare them to that a little bit, which I thought was pretty cool. There are other things I ordered. I think people wanted to see them, and I didn't mind trying them myself because I was curious. Ooh, I have a new opaque white to try too. It's from Copic. It looks like a little nail polish bottle. And it is a tiny, tiny bottle though. But anyway, I'll kind of show those maybe next weekend. I also will have some new books to flip through probably next weekend. I have a couple, but I kind of just want to wait till I get a couple more. So that's coming next weekend. One last month, everybody seemed to like really well. I had a lot of people watch that one. So I guess we're going to continue doing that moving forward, which is cool. I like showing y'all stuff that isn't in like a formal video. So I enjoyed doing that one too. So yeah, here I am just layering over from the dark to the light, all the different colors that I talked about, and then leaving just a hint of the base to give some little highlight areas. So, let's see. So we'll be doing that next weekend. Hopefully have some more pictures done this week. I've been coloring in the Sin, is that right? Color by Number books, The Adorable Cats. I've already done 2 pictures in that. I really like those books. Somebody said they have an Instagram and that it's an actual artist, so I was very happy about that. And love the color selection on them, and I did a couple of those. I think that's it right now for coloring. It has definitely been a better month, but I still want to do more. I just will have to see. So, all right, now we can talk about some of the other stuff. I might even put some pictures in here just to, because people that are relatively new may not understand who I'm talking about. Like, I have pictures of the different cats and stuff like that. I figured this would be a good time to put those in. And you can see here, I even sped this up, and like the rest of the video, well, not the rest of it is pencil. There's some other stuff, but Pencil takes me a long time, for sure. Like I said, I got done with this, and with this in the watercolor base, I was like, yeah, no, I'm done for today. When you use the watercolor, by the way, I normally, if I'm gonna let it air dry, I'll let it air dry for 24 hours. And that does help with the fragility of the paper. I think that helps a lot with the Amazon paper and stuff, giving it time to fully dry. It won't be as strong as it was, but it's also not as fragile. I wanted to keep working on this, so I did hit it with a um, heat gun. That's it. I hit it with a heat gun to try to go ahead and dry it up quick enough that I could work on it. But the paper was probably still a little fragile even using that. So just something else to keep in mind. Generally that's what I do, but like I said, in this case, I wanted to keep working on it, so I did speed it up. So, all right. So what have I been up to since I haven't been coloring that much up until recently? Oh, really just work and sleep. But I mean, a couple other things have happened. The most recent thing yesterday, oh my gosh, most recent thing's been the storms. Y'all, like, we messed, the whole April showers bring May flowers. Like, I tell you what, there better be a lot of flowers next month. Like, a ton. And they better be, I saw a meme where it said the flowers better be elite. And they're not kidding, because damn, it has just been nuts here. And what's weird is, like, last year I felt like we were in a drought for most of the year. We didn't get even during our normal wet weather in April and March, we didn't get a lot of rain. But like this year, we're getting it all. And we had 3 rounds of severe storms, I think. I think Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi, and even Kentucky are kind of becoming the new tornado alley. Tornado alley generally was more like Oklahoma, Texas, that area, but honestly, I think that has shifted over, especially in the last decade. And Middle Tennessee, we see quite a bit of it too. I was trying to think, I think last Sunday here wasn't bad. They had a tornado watch, they had all the things, and but it ended up not being that big of a deal for us. Like, we were able to go to bed at a normal time. It didn't look like it was going to hit us as much as it was more southern Tennessee. It seems like southern Tennessee gets it a little more than middle Tennessee. So most of it stayed south of us. But then, what was it? Wednesday night. Oh my goodness. Wednesday night was wild. I was watching, somebody recommended a YouTube channel with a guy that tracks the weather called Ryan Hall. Y'all is the name of the channel, which I love. And I loved it because he was covering all the different warnings in all the different locations. Like, he was talking about Arkansas, Indiana, Ohio, like, and it was crazy. He said in his years doing it, I don't know how many years he's done this. He said he's never seen anything like it. Like, Wednesday night in particular was just wild, and I liked seeing what was happening in the other locations, because the system basically moved in and then it stalled out here for like 4 days, which is why we got like rain for days. Um, and because it was, and it was also creepy. Because I walked outside and it was 80 degrees. It was humid. Like, somebody slapped me with a wet towel when I walked, old nasty wet towel when I went outside. Not a clean towel, an old nasty wet towel. And it was windy because we had a wind advisory. And I was like, this is terrifying, because that storm front was a cold front and it was hitting all this warm, moist air. And that was what was causing all the tornadic activity. And I was watching his channel and I was just like, it's just, if you live in any of these areas, basically, if you lived in the eastern US or, southeastern US, or you're like, even Indiana and Ohio, um, I was messaging Tammy. I'm like, I hope you're okay because she lives in Ohio. I was like, I think they said it was supposed to lessen before it got to you, but that was not the case. And it was going so slow. Like they originally had it hitting us around like 9 to midnight Wednesday night. Then it was like 1 to 3, and it was like it just took its time moving over our area. And so I was watching it approach, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to get you sleep tonight. I'm just, not only, even if it does lessen in intensity, the amount of thunder and lightning off this thing is going to be insane. Um, and I'm probably not going to be able to sleep. And I remember Brent stayed up with me, and the first round happened around 2 a.m., 1 to 2 a.m. And we were watching it. And I think that was, yeah. So we watched it, we went to bed, but then, like, and that was supposed to be mostly it. But then another string of storms kept coming up from southern Tennessee. And so I got back up because, of course, I was still watching the news, and I was glad for that. I got back up and I was up till 5 a.m. Because we actually got hit with at least one tornado warning. There were a couple that went through Nashville that it was like it was bouncing up and down. Hitting random places, and I was watching that one, and that one went south of where we live. I was trying to watch it because I didn't want to get everybody up. And cats in the closet, it's a thing. Everybody, me and Brent, and then trying to track down the cats. I wanted to let them sleep if I could, so. But finally things calmed down, but that night, I don't know. There was a night where we had a bunch of tornadoes come through when I was still married to my second husband, and all that's very Liz Taylor of me to say something like that. But there was one night where it seemed like they were just everywhere, and they hit all around us. Like we could see where they hit, like it's like an oil or petroleum processing facility or something. You could see the flames. It looked like it was just over the hill, like it hit a gas station and set it on fire or something. And we saw the flames from it, but that was like miles away. Like that was one massive fire. That night was really scary. And I don't think I've had another night quite that stressful probably since, well, since last night, but we're getting there. Wednesday night was tough for a lot of people. And southern Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi got hit pretty badly by all that, as did, Kentucky. So I ended up calling out of work Thursday because I was like, there's just no way. There's just no way. And what was wild is I got up Thursday and it was gorgeous outside. It was still hot, but it wasn't as humid. And it didn't rain. Like, they were calling for rain for 4 days, but like, it didn't rain most of the day. So I actually got to get out and color, and I'm going to show you here in a minute. Let me stop this. So, this was Thursday morning. Like, after that night of just craziness of storms, like, it was just gorgeous outside Thursday. A little hot still because, again, that front had stalled and it hadn't quite moved through our area 100%. So that cold air was. Where we live is up on like a natural forming ridge area. So like Nashville and the lower part of my county sit in more of a low-lying area, and up near Kentucky, there's like a natural ridge that builds up above north of Nashville, and it eventually moves into what's called the Cumberland Plateau. But the ridge area, we're fortunate in that a lot of times um, it serves as kind of a natural barrier. Sometimes storms just force their way through here, but that kind of main interstate that goes through Nashville, 65, kind of acts like a natural barrier. Like a lot of times storms will lessen in intensity as they cross into this ridge area. And that's what happened Wednesday night. It kept going south of us, trying to avoid that ridge, basically. And so we live on the upper part of the ridge. And, but like it was still, it wasn't as humid, but it was just nice. And so I have my little coloring buddy here, Reap Cheap, for those of you who are not familiar with him. If you hear purring during any of my voiceovers, like you did earlier, that is him because he likes to play baby and be on my shoulder. He is about 15 years old, and my second husband, as I said, very Liz Taylor of me, found him when he was just this bedraggled kitten he found outside. Had no idea where he came from. I'm in the country. There are drop-offs. Don't get me started. It's not as bad as it used to be, at least. But we have one of the few good things I can say about my second marriage is I wouldn't have a lot of these little guys in my life, guys and gals, if it wasn't for my second husband. So, because he tended to be outside when the waywards would show up, and he was very much what's one more. And that's how you get to 13 people. When nobody has any boundaries, because I certainly wasn't going to say, wait a minute, maybe this is too many. But yeah, he was a terror when he was a kitten. My cat Maggie, no, it was Big Ear and Maggie. I keep getting confused because they're all black cats. But he was like an Energizer bunny when he was a kitten. You would have to physically put toys away because he just would not stop playing until he was gasping for breath, and then he would still keep playing. And now he's gotten a little bit older. He does have constant ear problems. He's like a kid. He gets fluid in his ears, and they don't make little tiny tubes for cats in their ears, so he ends up with a lot of ear infections. Hematomas in his ear because he keeps shaking it. Other than that, he's in good shape if we could just get his ears taken care of. But here I am finally getting to a page for my Halloween all year long color along for one of the March pictures. And I do need to post the April pictures in the post tag, but they are on Instagram if you're joining that tag, by the way. They're there if you want to go see, but I'll post them here maybe after I put up this video. Anyway, I decided to take advantage of it and get out and color, and sadly, south of us really got hit hard, so it felt kind of bittersweet. Like, I was grateful that I was able to get out and enjoy the day, but there's a lot of people that couldn't, and a lot of people that were, picking up pieces, and just a lot of damage all around us. And so, I definitely don't make light of that. But, anytime I get a moment, like, so it was a rare day off from work, and anytime I get a moment to just be on the porch and kind of be peaceful is a rare opportunity, so I don't take that lightly either. So, all right. So yeah, Thursday we had a few little storms come through, nothing major. Friday was another day. That was nice. We actually didn't get as much rain as I thought we would. I don't know if it was because of that, boundary line still hitting us. I don't know if it was because It just wasn't raining as much. So in 2010, this area and the area around Nashville flooded. If for those of you not familiar with the area, it was really bad. Like the mall that used to be Opryland was underwater. A lot of areas in Nashville were, there were neighborhoods basically stranded and had to be rescued by boat because the flooding was so bad. It was a every 100 years kind of flood. And we had flooding in low-lying areas up here, but because we're on the ridge, we also don't have as much risk for like wide area flooding because it all drains down the ridge into the low-lying areas. So all of those were the ones. I remember I used to commute to Nashville, and there were a couple of days I actually couldn't commute because our way was blocked due to the flooding. But it was a similar event to this one where we had a front stall out. But fortunately, this one, there was flooding for sure in areas, but fortunately, it wasn't as long lasting or as still devastating, but not the 100-year flood level. Um, so I assumed we were in the clear. They were like, yeah, we have a chance on Saturday of storms, but like our area was a 2 out of 5. And so they're like, the front's finally going to move through and you're going to have cool air behind it. And they're like, but it's all southwest of Nashville's where the more enhanced risk will be. Again, poor southern Tennessee and Mississippi and Arkansas. Um, so I was like, okay. And so yesterday morning, it was gorgeous outside. Like, let me play a little clip for you just to get an idea of what I was listening to yesterday. I just can't talk doing something this intense. I couldn't even listen to like YouTube videos or anything. I was just listening to the sounds of birds and cars um, because I was so intensely focused. It's just impossible. I have to do these voiceovers because it's almost always impossible to do them live as I'm coloring them. But let me play you a little clip, kind of get you in the ambiance of what yesterday sounded like with all the bird song and stuff. Isn't that crazy? Like, normally I get a whole lot more road noise because there's a road that runs right in front of my house, which I'm on the screen porch when I'm coloring this. And fortunately, there wasn't a ton of traffic yesterday morning or people mowing. I guess because everything was so damp, I got a nice little break from 20,000 mowers. Um, but yeah, I spent a lot of my time yesterday out there doing all this, and it was really nice. Again, I have had the opportunity to do that, and when I tell you, like, it's so rare I get that opportunity, especially, I mean, the weather hasn't been very, temperature wise, hasn't been very helpful up until recently anyway. But even just taking time inside the color has not happened a lot. I haven't had a lot of free time and opportunity. So yeah, I was feeling pretty good when I came in yesterday. I was like, I think I'm done with this page for the day. I think I'm gonna go take a nap because I need a nap almost daily these days. And then we can do, and then I might, color another page or something listening to something. And I got ready to go lay down, and all of a sudden, we're talking about a tornado coming through Nashville, and they had, so it was one last big series. It was the front was finally coming through here. And I always worry about those the most, because when the very first group of supercell thunderstorms that come through like that is almost always when we get up here, when we get our worst chance for tornadoes. And sure enough, that front was pushing through, and they had suddenly, like, all these alarms were going off on my phone, and it was like tornado warning, then it hit another tornado warning. I'm like, why are you telling me this twice? That's because there were two. They had one specifically for my area north of my county, and they had one specifically south for my county, and they both converged on my town. like like you know, God or Zeus or whatever. It was like, you know, screw this town in particular. You made me mad today. And I was like, oh boy, okay, it's our turn. Oh boy. And so it was bad enough. I said, we gotta do the cats. And when you're like, what do you mean we gotta do the cats? This picture here in a minute's what I mean. This is our storm shelter, which is the closet under the stairs. I live in a 100-year-old farmhouse, and all the cats got packed up in the carriers and stuffed in this closet, and that is what I mean. And I try to wait until the absolute last minute to do that because, for one thing, Bagheera's Cushing's, his ability to walk is impacted by his stress levels, his cortisol. Like, he does struggle a little bit when he gets super stressed out, or struggle a little bit more. And so I try to wait to stress him out until I just have no choice. And so they were in the closet for an hour, and they were pissed. Like, oh my gosh, this one reef cheap, and BMO would not stop for like an hour straight. And honestly, their meowing was stressing me out more than the storm. And but it's all about like just keeping us safe. And I was like, this is a situation where something's coming, and I don't know what it is, but because it looks like it's going to be particularly bad, we're just going to have to go ahead and do this. And so we watched it, and it was a storm that kept touching down and going back up again. And it was a wall cloud that was like, I guess it was it had went back up, and it was kind of like, is it going to be a tornado? Is it not? Pretty much the whole way through my local counties. And it passed over my parents' house, and which was terrifying. They had some broken branches and stuff, and my brother TJ even said that, you know, he doesn't recall seeing wind like that, you know, anytime recently. But it went up the main road between my parents' town and my town, and it was just going up the road and straight to us. And I was sitting there watching it and on the news, and was becoming more and more antsy. And then it got to the main intersection in my town, and it's like it almost just turned right and kept going east. And it was funny. My brother's like, I wonder if it used a turn signal, which I thought was quite humorous. But uh, it, you know, we're more into the actual town proper, so we actually didn't get we didn't have any damage. We were very fortunate. But there were some pretty wild pictures, and so left the cats in there another 10-15 minutes. I was like, just let this front go through, and then it's supposed to be fine after that, you know, just rain and some thunderstorms, much to Leroy's dismay. I started calling Leon. Um, he hates storms, hates them. Let me show you a picture of Leroy. I don't know if, for those of you that don't know who he is. So this is Mr. Leroy in a rare moment of peace, I think Friday. Um, he is one of the silliest, goofiest cats I've ever had. He's 7 now. He has calmed down quite a bit as he's gotten older, but he is named Leroy Jenkins is his full name, named after the infamous YouTube video. And he's pretty much Leroy Jenkins his way through life. I've seen him jump and slam headfirst into a washing machine before. He's flipped over more water bowls than I can count, running through the house, cartoon style. Um, and he is just a general menace, but he is also my sweet boy. For a cat that can be so stressed out, or that can be such a menace, he is the biggest little baby when it comes to storms or loud noises or anything unusual. But storms are the worst. He hides. I tried to give him his amitriptyline to help, but he still, like, it stresses him out so bad. And it just hurts my heart because he comes over and he pretty much, when it stops, but it's still raining and stuff outside, like, he will come out, but then he will just stay glued to me or my husband. And, like, he will just stay, he stays around my ankles and runs the risk of tripping me because he's scared and he wants comfort, and it just tugs at my heart and it makes me so sad. I hate when we have weather like this because I know it upsets him so bad, and there's not much I can do about it. So, um, but anyway, while talking about Leroy, I figured I'd go ahead and talk about the other cats as well. So, if you hear me talk about Bagheera, this is Bagheera. He is about 16, 17. He has a number of health issues. He is close to not being diabetic anymore, which is a plus. But the diabetes did lead to him developing Cushing's, which is uncommon in cats. But it basically is like a benign tumor on his adrenal glands that causes his endocrine system to go haywire. It leads to muscle loss. And his biggest problem with that is and it's overproduction of steroids in his body. So the biggest problems with him is stomach pain and his and bathroom issues, and then slowly he is it's causing muscle weakness in his back legs. So certain times of the day he doesn't walk very well. Part of that's due to the big dose of gabapentin that he's getting for pain. And part of that is due to his blood sugar levels. We have to check those a lot and constantly adjust insulin. But, he's about 2 years into that diagnosis. So he's the one I'm worried most about right now. But he also has high blood pressure, so he's on quite a few medications. Managing well enough. He gets plenty of food, and he is not he used to be a troublemaker back in the day, but since he's hit elderly age, he has chilled out a lot, and this is his favorite thing to do is sleep. And we have to have pet stairs all over the place, and we have to put a baby gate at the foot of our stairs to minimize his risk of falling, because he can't jump. He needs assistance when he gets up on like the beds and stuff. So we're really careful when he's up on elevated surfaces to make sure he can get up and get down safely. And to round it out, as we continue working on this picture, I'll show you the other two and then talk a little bit about them. We have 5 total. So this is Bimo. She's our youngest. She is a year and a half. And speaking of cats being dumped in the country, she is one of those cases I'll talk about in a minute. She is chaos embodied. And this is Winry. She is my oldest. She will be 19 this year. And except for Bagheera, she has been the one I've worried the most about health-wise, for sure. Given her age, that's probably not much of a surprise. But I, what was I gonna say? Oh, so we were pretty, set at 4 cats. The numbers have went down over the years just due to old age and illnesses and things like that. And the last new cat we had gotten, I think, was Leroy, and it had been about 3 or 4 years. And I think that's right. And then I saw some kids walking. I happened to look outside because I saw some people walking on the road, and I saw some kids walking over to this field next to my house. They set something down and walked away, and I realized it was a kitten. And so I barged out there, like, what are y'all doing? And they made up some excuse that they found the kitten, took it home, couldn't keep it. And I'm like, why didn't you take it back to where it normally is? And being kids, they just kind of shrugged, like, I don't know. So I said, just give it to me. There's no way this, she was obviously scared, and terrified and young. And so, I took her and went in the house or went on the porch and was just like, oh, great. Now they're getting hand delivered. The cat distribution center is now hand delivering, um, cats to my door. But I really wanted I don't know. She is a very unique cat. Come to find out, one of the teenagers, I guess, had been told to basically get rid of her because they had too many animals. And she wasn't, I guess, affectionate enough to be cute. And so they chose her to go just dump her off somewhere. And she was in heat. So I still carry a lot of anger over that. Like, I hope I don't see those kids again. But now that I know I take animals, there's no telling. I'm sure more will get dropped off, but what are you gonna do, right? Um, this is a black glaze gel pen, by the way, that I'm using for Leon. I kept the paw print on the banner white, but I am thinking about using the black glaze gel pen on it, because there's plenty of white in the picture, and I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments what you think, because I can always add that back in afterwards. But anyway, Bumo's very unique. She's a terror. She's a gremlin. She's a goblin. But she can be a goblin here. We are the house of accepting all kinds of cats, no matter how uncat-like they act. She doesn't meow like a normal cat. It sounds like an E. I don't know. It sounds like a whine. She whines at everything. She whines when she's happy. She whines when she's grumpy. She whines at everything. And of course, obviously, she's been spayed since then. The meanness got a little better, and obviously, it's gotten a lot better in the year. She actually was one of the smoothest transitions to the household. Like, I expected her and Leroy to get into it, and it turns out that her and Winry got into it, which I thought was funny that the 19-year-old cat would chase around the 1.5-year-old, but it wasn't her chasing Winry, it was Winry chasing her, which is probably not good for Winry, but it's that's all calmed down a lot now. Her and Leroy like to play, which is playing is growling and swatting at each other till somebody gets so worked up that it you have to watch it. Like, I think they think they're playing and then suddenly they're fighting, like siblings, I guess. I don't know. And so then you have to go break it up. No bloodshed, but you can tell when it gets too intense. But they're just both very intense cats, and I think they just get too intense with each other to like play like normal cats would play. And I used a glitter gel pen, by the way, on that flag there. So, um, but so that's BMO, and like I said, she is She's named after the character in Adventure Time. But she definitely brings a lot of laughs and a lot of fun energy to the house. I'm grateful for her, and obviously, even with her goblin grumpy ways, I wouldn't give her up for the world. So, she's allowed to be her own grumpy goblin goddess here. Um, Trust and believe I know how that feels. So I have, uh, I totally get her. Here I'm using a white gel pen to kind of clean up a little bit on that Clover. I just want that to stand out a little bit more. Because, you know, like Clover kind of has that white line. That's what I was thinking that represents. Winry, like I said, she is 19. She is truly my baby out of all of them. She's always really just preferred me and only me. I've had her since she was 6 months old. She was found in the shed behind our house, again, thanks to my second husband. And she lays on me when I sleep. She is my shadow. And she has a host of issues going on. She has her biggest problem is kidney and just gastro issues. And she gets stressed when I have to travel. And she was doing okay until I came back from Seattle last September. And then all of a sudden, she got really sick. Before I go into that, what I'm doing here, I wanted a little more shadow, a little more, I guess, dark going in the light on the background. So I got the idea of using one of my pastel pencils and then blending it with a Q-tip. And as you'll see, it's subtle. I probably could have went over it 2 or 3 times, but by that point I was like, good enough, it's fine. I was putting all kinds of stuff on this picture. But you'll see me use the Q-tip in a minute with that. It's what I typically use with pastel pencils to shade. But she got really sick last October, had a UTI due to stress when I came back, and she was down to 5.5 pounds. She's small anyway. I had been 6 pounds for a long time, but we had to go to daily fluids, shots of anti-nausea meds because she wouldn't eat and she was nauseous. We were, for 4 or 5 months, she was having to get medicine and fluids and various things 3 times a day, I think. And then she developed what looked like, she even started taking this stuff called Porous 1, which is this medication that helps remove the toxins. So when your kidneys start to go bad, toxins build up in your blood. The Porous 1 takes it and moves it into your digestive system. So then basically they pass it instead of it building up in their system. And with her advanced kidney disease, we decided to try that. Well, a week later, she got a weird bald spot on her side, and for weeks we treated it like some sort of bacterial or fungal infection. No, come to find out, she was just allergic to the Porous 1. So we had to stop that. We also had to stop her GI pills because those were also making her nauseous. But you know what? She's doing really well. She was 6.5 pounds before she got sick. She is up to 6.3, 6.4. She is very active. She seems like she's doing really well, honestly. I know that can change, and I really didn't think I had a lot of time left with her, so I'm like with Bagheera and obviously with the rest of the cats, I just try to take it day by day and just be grateful that I have another good day with her. So we are about to get to the finished picture here, y'all. So backing off here to show you what everything looks like so far. And then here is our finished picture you've been looking at. Like I said, when I first got done with it, I was like, man, that's really bright. I was trying to look for something more subtle. Like I said, I was kind of trying to, I was like, I wanted that look I saw other people accomplish. And then I realized the more I look at it, the more I love how bright and vibrant he is. And I'm like, this is me. This is this is how I am when I color, and he just matches the vibes. So, and I'll see, like I said with the others, I used fewer Supracolor pencils, so they'll probably not be quite as bold as he is. And I can kind of decide from there what I like and don't like. And not every version of him is going to look like this in the book. Sometimes, like I said, I may use lighter watercolor pencils. I might use different types of colored pencils. But his general coloring is going to look the same throughout. I was very pleased with how that turned out. So, I will, like I said, hopefully finish up the others during the week. And as I finish those, I will add those to this list of what I'm using color wise. I will tell you for Lily, I'm going with kind of a. She's going to be. Hers is going to be, I think, the easiest because she's mostly white. So I'm going to be using a lot of grays. She's going to have gray kind of around her eyes and on the tips of her ears. Her eyes are going to be blue. Latte and mocha, I'm using kind of browns, kind of like, to me, they look like Labrador retrievers, so I'm going to color them as such. And then, like I said, Baron, I think, is a great horned owl, so his is going to be a lot of browns and blacks as well, with some whites. And I'm still not 100% sure how I'm going to color him, so. I guess I didn't really get a chance to talk about much else today, except for the weather and the cats. That's definitely been the most recent thing. Oh, well, last night after all was said and done, um, my husband had been prepping and got delayed a bit. However, we still had it. Was first contact day, which, if you're familiar with Star Trek, you'll know that that was in the movie the first day that the character Zephyrin Cochrane achieved warp with his ship and caught the attention of the Vulcans, which of course changes the course for Earth and leads to the Federation and all that. So there's a whole movie, Star Trek movie about it, and so every year on April 5th, excuse me, we make pierogies, which is Zephyr's favorite food, and watch the movie. And so we had just enough time to do that last night. Um, my husband makes the pierogies every year, and he's getting better and better. This year he used wonton wrappers, and they're potato like based pierogies, and they turned out really good. I liked them a lot. And then we ended up watching the movie last night while I was coloring a color by number picture. And so that was nice. We still managed to have it in spite of everything going on. I guess to run up stuff here at the end, and that's good because that way I don't have to keep clipping and going back and forth. But I got my hair cut, as I'm hopefully showing the picture here. I finally got it cut. I left it growing for like a year because I was so busy I couldn't get back to my hairstylist. I wanted to get it colored, but the way, or at least the previous haircut I had, I did blue in the front, and I really liked that, but it takes her like 3 hours to do the color and cut. And so I just didn't have the time or energy, and I was like, can you just cut it? And she did. And it's kind of, middle-aged mom-ish, but it got the hair out of my face, which was the biggest thing. And I haven't had bangs since the 7th grade. And after like a month already, I got that done about a month ago. The bangs are already starting to annoy me because they're getting just long enough now to get my eyes and drive me crazy. I really was thinking about going even shorter than this because I'm just tired of my hair in my face. But she talked me out of it, and I'm kind of glad. I'm not quite ready to take that leap just yet. So I guess I will have to go back pretty frequently to keep the bangs in check. I even tried cutting it myself a couple times last year just to get the length off of it. The first time went okay. The second time, I think I used a different pair of scissors, and like it didn't look good at all. And so I mean, it was straight. It just, I don't know how to explain it. It went like weirdly curly and wavy and just looked grubby. And so, glad for that. Back during the deep freeze in January, I think it was, we had the pipe behind our washing machine bust for like the third time in all the years I've been here. We were in single digits and negatives for in like for a number of days in temperature, and we found a good plumber to come back and fix it. But we got to talking to him, and because it's PVC pipe that's like 20, 30 years old, because this is like a 100-year-old farmhouse, it's becoming brittle. This one was a really bad bust, and I'm hopefully showing a picture here of it, and it's a mess. We had a leak detector. I highly recommend, if you have any water lines that run along an outer wall or run the risk of breaking during a deep freeze, or if you have a water heater, like a full-size water heater or anything like that, I highly recommend getting or a basement even, getting a leak detector and putting it, on the floor or something, because the day that line busted, my husband and I were on the other side of the house. We didn't hear it pop. We heard the leak detector go off because we had one next to the water heater and it was flooding that utility room. And we were able to get out and get that water shut off. We were able to actually clean it up ourselves. Other than cutting into the floor in this section of the wall, there was no other damage. We wouldn't have heard it. Like, the cats would have been floating on pieces of furniture by the time we would have figured out there was something wrong. Like, this was a major pipe bust further down the line. And so it was like, I don't know, $10, $15. Like, highly recommend one of those. That thing sounded like somebody shooting like a laser gun in a sci-fi movie when it went off. So we had no idea what it was. And it was funny now, but not funny at the time. And also not funny that because of the way PVC is, we need to upgrade to something called PEX, which has more flexibility in freezing temperatures. And it's not, thanks to climate change, it's not going to get any warmer during the winters here, at least not right now. It's going to get even colder. So he recommended that basically we replumb the house in PEX. And so that is probably going to be our project this year. I might even try to wait and do it in the fall before winter hits. We don't necessarily, I guess, have to do it first thing in the spring, but that was disappointing. But we were kind of hoping to get some cosmetic stuff this year, but it looks like that's going to be our fun project this year. So that happened. Went to see an endocrinologist because my nutritionist suspected I had Hashimoto's. They tested. I am negative for Hashimoto's and negative for any sort of thyroid issues. So there's one other thing I can check off my punch list of specialists, I guess, as we still are not 100% sure, there's something going on other than the fibro and insomnia and everything else, and nobody can seem to figure it out. My fibro flare-ups have been really bad, particularly with the temperature jumping up and down 20 degrees. Spring tends to be the worst time of year for my joints. My knees feel like they're 20 years older than they should be right now. And that's another thing is I have to be conscious about when I color, because my flare-ups in my arms and my shoulders are worse. I worked so much overtime that I ended up causing a flare-up in the right side of my back. And I was supposed to go to Seattle for work, and I had to skip it because I couldn't sit on a plane for 5 hours with my back seizing spasms like that. So even more work, even overtime at work causes it. And so like I said, I just have to be careful about it. There's some other things I didn't get to, but it's stuff I can talk about later on. But there is some fun stuff coming up. My brother and I have some conventions we want to go to this year. We're going to diversify a little bit. There is a Cherry Blossom Festival next week in Nashville, as long as the weather holds out. I would like to go to with my brother. We have some conventions coming up I can talk about, maybe share some photos with. We bought a Ninja Creamy device, which has been absolutely fantastic for creating like healthier desserts using like frozen fruit and like sugar-free chocolate chips and stuff. And so, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. Work, I think, will ease up a little bit over the next few weeks. Hopefully, we will get more people hired, which is the plan. I'm hoping the next 3 or 4 months things get better at work. So, I mean, there's things to be optimistic about and look forward to. I guess it's not all dire here. It's just, I'm just perpetually tired and I need a break. And I'm hoping this month I can kind of have a little bit of a break from just things being the way they've been. So, all right, I have rattled on for an hour and a half. I think that's long enough. I hope you enjoyed the color along or color in chat. I tried to mix it up a little bit this time by adding in some pictures. I thought that would be fun as something a little different. Really proud of this page and the way it's going. Definitely learned some things as I went along, which was the whole point of this page. And hopefully you enjoyed seeing my process and hearing me talk about my process a little bit. Unless I have some extra time and desire this week, y'all may not see another video from me till next weekend. Unless I'm not going to say it. Every time I say I'm going to do that video, it never happens. So maybe if I don't say it, it'll happen this week. There's a video I've been meaning to do for a long time. I'm really hoping I can do this week so I can get that off my plate. We'll just say that. But I hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, everything. There's a lot going on in the world still. I honestly lately have had to try to avoid the news a little bit because I've already been so stressed out with just day-to-day life that it's hard to go online and then suddenly doom scroll about more things like what stupid crap has happened today. So for the moment, I am just trying to find some peace and find moments in the day that I can enjoy rather than it just being awful all day, every day. So, hope y'all are doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.